Okay, so Tony Grossi comes out all over Jameis Winston about throwing interceptions that were the product of Ken Dorsey's offense, as I said repeatedly. Makes it look like Jameis Winston should never start again. Basically trashes the Heisman Trophy winner and national champion and historically one of the NFL's best passers. Calls for DTR as if Dorian Thompson-Robinson will be a major difference and produce a win. None of that happens. As I told you, it would not happen. As I explained, when Dorian Thompson-Robinson was in practice on Wednesday, and the day the game plan was introduced, and they have him in these drills for the media, but his footwork was awful. The simple fact of the matter is that Ken Dorsey does not pay attention to the fundamentals of passing. Formation type, formation spacing, footwork, and timing with respect to the offense. For example, who designs running plays with a play action fake but the offensive linemen are pass blocking, which negates the, objective of the fake. The objective of the fake is to slow down the pass rush, to really stop it, because ideally you should start off run blocking over those linemen, over the offensive linemen, with those that are not retreating, so that they're ready to pick up the blitz. But the whole point is that for every offensive lineman over a defensive lineman, or a defensive lineman over that offensive lineman should run block them, not retreat. Dorsey has everybody retreating. So here you are, you're back there play faking, and you're literally sitting there as a duck being served to slaughter by the defensive line because the offensive line is retreating and thus bringing them to the quarterback. That's the Ken Dorsey offense, and it's technique. And a number of you all say, well, it's, we need a new offensive line. Look, as long as that kind of coaching is going on, you're not going to get better offensive production. You're just not going to get it, okay? That's a fact. Fire Ken Dorsey. And hey, if that comes from Ken Stefanski, fire him too. Yeah, I know the record said he's set with the Browns. But obviously, the league has caught up to the type of football game offensively that Kevin has put on the field. And then defensively, they finally used a double A gap blitz this game. I wrote an email to Jim Schwartz, defensive coordinator, 2 games ago saying, hey, look, use a double A gap blitz, because he insists on using that wide 9 defensive front where the defensive ends are way out wide on either side and leave these big gaps for you to run through. They call them bubble areas in the vernacular. Schwartz, has the nerve to use that defensive front, even within the red zone, even within the 10-yard line. Are you kidding me? All right. This is bad coaching done before you, in your face, Tony Grossi, and you don't even see it. All right. And so you want DTR? What did he do? 20 of 34 for a measly 157 yards, 4.9 yard average per pass, and 2 interceptions. And oh, by the way, just missed a third, except that the Bengals, 3 Bengals DBs were fighting over it like Keystone Cops. Literally. The best pickups of the day were on a screen pass to Jerome Ford, which went for, I believe, 55 yards, and Thompson's runs. But toward the end of his time and in the fourth quarter, Dorian was literally throwing the ball up. It was awful. And that was Ken Dorsey allowing him to do that. So finally, he pulls him, Ken Dorsey does, and puts in Bailey Zappi. For what? I don't know. As long as Ken Dorsey is the offensive coordinator, no quarterback is going to perform to their optimum. There'll always be a problem. The best they've gotten this year has been from Jameis Winston. Think about it. Jameis Winston gave the Cleveland Browns their best offensive performance while it was coached by Ken Dorsey's offensive coordinator, and yet they pulled him, thinking that they were going to get better with Dorian because they put in a different offense, and it was different for him. But the similarities between those offenses were lack of attention to footwork, lack of attention to timing, lack of attention to formation design. What do I mean by that? Calling tight formations, bringing the defense close into you when you really are trying to block them. Not effectively using motion. Not effectively using play action as it's supposed to be with the line actually, run blocking. Okay? These are fundamental errors that Ken Dorsey makes each week. And Kevin Stefanski just lets it go on. So maybe Kevin needs to take a holiday. The Browns need to get smart about football in the second decade of the 21st century and stop trying to play it like, hey, it's the 20th. It's not. It is not. It is not. You have a perfectly great quarterback in Jameis Winston. Keep him. Build a smart offense around him. Get a different offensive coordinator. Who? Well, as I've said, Jeff Nixon. Jeff Nixon, the offensive coordinator at Syracuse, would be an excellent offensive coordinator for the Browns or head coach. Hey, head coach Mike Vrabel. How about that? Pair Mike Vrabel with Jeff Nixon as offensive coordinator. Keep Winston with Watson. You have to keep him. Well, you don't have to, really. I would basically eat that because he's literally wasting space if you're not going to employ him. Now, if you're going to keep Deshaun Watson, then you need to put in the play action fake run system that he ran, or a variation of it suited for what the Browns want to do, but that was designed by Tim Kelly when he was the offensive coordinator for the Texans. Heck, maybe you want to consider hiring Tim Kelly. But also, I think that, as I really think about it, like I said the other day, I thought about the other day, Jim Caldwell is a veteran head coach. He's special assistant with the Panthers. And I think he would make an excellent head coach. He already has taken the Colts to the Super Bowl. He won a ring coaching Joe Flacco, got Joe Flacco as MVP. Jim Caldwell has what they call skins on the wall. He understands how to develop a timed passing game. He's well respected around the league. So get him as your head coach. But the Browns need to make those coaching changes, and they need to do so with the idea of why they're doing it. And they would be doing it because they're not getting good fundamental passing game coaching out of their current coaching staff. It's not there. Even when Kevin had Baker Mayfield had this long wind-up throw that produced interceptions. Kevin never corrected it. And I thought then, why is Kevin considered such a great coach if he's not correcting the throwing motion of his quarterback? These are fundamental problems that lead to losses versus wins. And the Browns commit these problems far too much. The Browns' problems are fixable. But changing quarterbacks or offensive line isn't the answer. It's coaching. And a lot of you who watch football must become more knowledgeable about how to watch football. Maybe I should make a video series on that. How to recognize when an offense is using a certain type of blocking. How to recognize the importance of timing in the passing game. How to recognize when a quarterback is throwing with respect to progression versus not. So you can watch television and understand it better. Because what you see isn't what you think is there. But too often you think it is. You know, I've said it before, like with Jameis. Ken Dorsey deliberately had Jameis throwing an air raid style passing game. He said it was aggressive. He said he wanted Jameis to be aggressive. And then he complains about the interceptions. Jaden Daniel threw 5 interceptions and won the game. How about that, okay? We're in a sloppy passing league. Why? Because you have these owners that don't like ball control passing. That's the dirty little secret. They prefer to see it thrown all over the park because the people love it, but they don't want the interceptions that go with it. So you have to install a mix of ball control passing and what you call aggressive approach, which comes down to really interesting nuances like, for example, misdirection pass patterns, comeback patterns, rollout, sprint outs, basically making sure the quarterback isn't a sitting duck back there, but you don't necessarily have to have him run, which means that you don't necessarily have to have a running quarterback, right? All of this and more can be done. All of this and more can be done. The Browns aren't doing it. And I just wonder why Cleveland fans put up with it. I don't know. What's the answer? Masochism? That would make sense. All right, Tony Grossi, you're wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And Kirk Cousins, God bless him, God love him. God has blessed him, and God does love him because Kirk Cousins got a lot of money to show for it. But he is not the answer. And I hope you realize now that changing quarterbacks isn't the answer most of the time. It's how the quarterback is coached. And the play is a reflection of what the coaches want that quarterback to do. Look at the playbook. Ask to see it. Look at what they've done in the past. And then ask questions. That's why I was saying to Kurt Warner on Twitter, hey, why is it that when you draw up a play, you don't draw the steps for the quarterback? These little details are the difference between wins and losses. How many steps did the quarterback take? For example, did you notice that Dorsey had Dorian Thompson-Robinson taking one-step passes? Did you ever see that when Jameis Winston was out there? No. Ken Dorsey did Jameis Winston no favors. I'm sorry. He used him like Major League Baseball used Jose Canseco, Mark McGwire, and Sammy Sosa during the home run king era. Saying, hey, it's okay to get doped up. We just want you to hit homers because the crowd loves it. Well, I'm not saying Jameis is doped up at all. But I'm saying, hey, it's okay to throw long. It's okay to throw interceptions as long as you're aggressive. Until people complain about it, right? Or until you win. The Browns' defense was not strong enough to allow that kind of game. So if you're going to play that kind of game, you have to have a defense that's good enough to get the offense off the field and the ball back to your offense so that they can score. If you're not doing that, it's not good. And that's why the Browns need to change the defensive coordinator. They need somebody who plays the defense like Brian Flores coaches. Maybe Brian Flores should be considered as another head coaching candidate. Maybe he needs to be the hired guy. Because that's that wide nine defense that Coach Schwartz puts on the field. It's not cutting it. It's not cutting it at all. It doesn't get the ball back. It doesn't make enough stops. It's not effective. That's the problem. All right. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube. And how about Jane Daniels today, right? Bookmark NFL News by Zenny62.com. That ends this broadcast.